Namaste and welcome back to Eternal Raga, Bhagavad Gita, one shloka every day. Yesterday, in Shloka 8, we met the 7 great warriors of the Kaurava side: Drona, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and Bhurishrava. Each one a figure of extraordinary ability and heartbreaking tragedy. Great men bound to a wrong cause by oaths, debts, blood ties, and misplaced virtues. Today, Duryodhana finishes his counter-roster, and in this final verse of his military assessment, something shifts. He stops naming individuals. He waves his hand over the rest of his army and says, in effect, "And there are many more, all heroes, all armed, all skilled, all ready to die for my sake." 2 words in this verse change everything. Mat arthe, for my sake, for my purpose. In those 2 words, the entire moral architecture of Duryodhana's worldview is exposed. This is a man who genuinely believes that other human beings, their skills, their courage, their very lives exist to serve his ambition. This is the verse where the disease of mamaka that opened the Gita in Shloka 1 reaches its fullest, most disturbing expression. Let us listen. The Shloka let us hear this verse in Sanskrit. Unlike the previous verses, there are no individual names here. This is a sweeping declaration, expansive, possessive, and deeply revealing. Anye cha bahava shura madarthe, tyakta jivita, nana shastra praharana, sarve yuddha visharada. In Devanagari, Anye cha bahava shura madarthe, tyakta jivita, nana shastra praharana, sarve yuddha visharada. Padathed, word by word breakdown. This verse has no proper names, but every word is loaded with meaning. Let us examine each one with the care it deserves. Anye, others, additional ones. After naming 7 specific warriors in Shloka 8, Duryodhana now gestures toward the unnamed masses. And there are others. The shift from individual names to a collective wave of the hand is itself revealing. These warriors do not merit individual recognition in Duryodhana's mind. They are simply others. Cha, also, and, the conjunction of accumulation, adding more to what has already been listed. Bahava, many, numerous, in great numbers. This is Duryodhana leaning on quantity. Having spent the previous verses terrified by the quality of the Pandava army, he now pivots to numbers. We may not have 17 named Maharathas like they do, but we have many warriors. The emphasis on quantity over quality is a telling admission. Shura, heroes, valiant warriors. The same word Duryodhana used for the Pandava warriors in Shloka 4. He mirrors their description, attempting to create a sense of parity. But there is a crucial difference. For the Pandavas, he named each hero individually and described their specific qualities. For his own unnamed warriors, he uses the generic plural. The equivalence is asserted but not demonstrated.
Madarth, for my sake, for my purpose, on my behalf. This is the heart of the verse. Mad is the first person singular possessive, my. Arth means for the purpose of, for the sake of. Together, for my sake. Not for dharma, not for the kingdom, not for the Kuru dynasty, not for truth or justice, for Duryodhana personally. The single compound word exposes the entire war as what it truly is. Not a principled stand, but one man's ego demanding that the world serve it, even at the cost of its own life. Tyakta jivitaha. Having abandoned their lives, prepared to die,
those who have given up their life force. This is a compound. Tyakta, abandoned, given up, plus jivita, life, the vital force. Duryodhana speaks of his warriors' willingness to die as though it were an offering made to him. They have given up their lives, not for a cause, not for a principle, but for Duryodhana. He frames their sacrifice as a personal tribute. This is the language of a feudal lord who considers his subjects' lives to be his property. Nana Shastra Praharanaha, armed with various kinds of weapons. A triple compound. Nana, various, diverse, plus Shastra, weapons that are thrown or projected like arrows, javelins, and discs, plus Praharana, instruments of striking. In the Sanskrit martial tradition, a distinction exists between Shastra, weapons wielded by hand like swords and maces, and Astra, weapons empowered by mantras like divine missiles. The word Shastra here is sometimes interpreted broadly to include both categories, indicating that these warriors command the full spectrum of military technology. Sarve, all, everyone. The same universalizing word Duryodhana used in Shloka 6 when he called the Pandava warriors all Maharathas. Here, he applies it to his own unnamed forces. All of them are skilled. All of them are armed. The word Sarve is Duryodhana's verbal security blanket. He keeps wrapping himself in totalities to feel safe. Yuddha Visharadaha, skilled in the art of warfare, experienced in battle. A compound. Yuddha, battle, war, plus Visharada, expert, skilled, proficient. The root Sharad relates to ripeness, maturity, mastery through experience. These are not raw recruits, they are battle-tested veterans, or so Duryodhana claims. But notice, he provides no proof, no specific feats, no names. The Pandava side had each warrior's credentials laid out. For his own many others, Duryodhana offers only a blanket assertion. Full translation. And many other heroic warriors who have staked their lives for my sake, armed with various weapons, all of them skilled in the art of warfare. The full arc. Mamaka to Madarte, the disease in full bloom. Let us now step back and see the full trajectory that the Gita has traced across 9 verses. In Shloka 1, Dhritarashtra said, Mamaka, my people. That single possessive word revealed a king who divides the world into mine and not mine, who sees his own nephews as outsiders. In Shloka 7, Duryodhana said, Mama Sainyasya, my army. The possessiveness has been inherited. Father and son share the same disease. And now in Shloka 9, the disease reaches its terminal form. Madarte Tyakta Jivita. Warriors who have abandoned their lives for my sake. Not merely my people or my army. Now it is my purpose, my cause, for which others exist to die. The Gita is tracking a psychological progression with clinical precision. Attachment, mamaka, becomes possession, mama sainyasya, which becomes the belief that other people's lives are instruments of your will, madarte tyakta jivita. This is how the ego, left unchecked, consumes everything around it. It begins by drawing a line between mine and yours. It ends by believing that the mine includes other people's very breath. Krishna will spend 18 chapters dismantling exactly this progression. The entire teaching of the Gita, from Nishkama Karma, selfless action, to surrender to the divine, is the antidote to Madarte. The cure for my sake
is for the sake of all. The unnamed warriors, what anonymity reveals. There is something deeply telling about the structure of Duryodhana's two catalogues. When describing the Pandava army, Shlokas 3 to 6, he named 17 warriors individually. He knew their names, their lineages, their titles, their capabilities. He gave them the respect of individual recognition even as an enemy. When describing his own army, Shlokas 8 to 9, he named only 7 warriors, and then dismissed the rest as many other heroes. The warriors who are supposedly dying for him do not even merit the dignity of being named. They are a mass, a number, a resource. This asymmetry reveals something the Mahabharata understands deeply about tyrannical leadership. It knows its enemies better than its own people. Duryodhana has studied the Pandava side with obsessive attention. He knows every warrior, every alliance, every threat. But his own supporters? They are others. They are many. They are interchangeable. Prabhupada, in his commentary, names some of these others for us. Jayadratha, the king of Sindhu, who assisted in Abhimanyu's killing. Kritavarma, the Yadava commander who sided with Duryodhana. Shalya, the king of Madra, who was tricked into fighting for the Kauravas. Each of these warriors has a rich and painful story, but Duryodhana reduces them to a collective Anyecha Bahava and many others. The leaders who fight for dharma know their people by name. The leaders who fight for ego know their people by number. The ominous prophecy in Tyakta Jivita. Commentators across traditions have noted a devastating irony in the phrase Tyakta Jivita, those who have given up their lives. Duryodhana means this as a boast. My warriors are so loyal that they are willing to die for me. But from the narrator's perspective, and from the perspective of anyone who knows the outcome of the war, this phrase is an unintentional prophecy. They will indeed give up their lives, not triumphantly, not victoriously, but in a catastrophic defeat that will leave the Kaurava side almost completely annihilated. Prabhupada writes, "It is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana." The phrase Tyakta Jivita, spoken as a source of pride, is actually a death sentence. By joining Duryodhana's cause, these warriors have indeed abandoned their lives, not as a heroic sacrifice, but as the inevitable consequence of standing on the side of adharma. Swami Chinmayananda reads this moment as Duryodhana briefly regaining composure after his earlier panic. Though Duryodhana, in his mental hysteria, got slightly upset at the subjective onslaught of his own brutal motives and past crimes, like the true dictator that he was, he regained his balance in no time. The dictator's skill is precisely this: the ability to recover from moments of self-doubt and resume the performance of confidence. Duryodhana's inner world may be in turmoil, but his public face now projects strength. Shastra and Astra, the science of weapons. The phrase Nana Shastra Praharana, armed with various weapons, invites a brief exploration of the sophisticated weapons taxonomy in the Mahabharata. In the ancient Indian martial tradition, weapons were classified into two primary categories. Shastra, physical weapons wielded by hand or released mechanically. Swords, khadga, maces, gada, spears, shakti, javelins, tumara, bows and arrows, dhanus and bana, discs,
chakra, and battle axes, parashu, all fall into this category. Mastery of Shastra required physical strength, dexterity, and years of training. Astra, celestial or mantra-empowered weapons. These were ordinary arrows or projectiles that, when charged with a specific mantra, became divine missiles of extraordinary power. The Brahmastra, weapon of Brahma, Pashupatastra, weapon of Shiva, Narayanastra, weapon of Vishnu, and Varunastra, weapon of the ocean god, were among the most feared. Invoking an astra required not just knowledge of the mantra, but the spiritual merit to bear its power. When Duryodhana says his warriors are armed with various weapons, he is claiming they possess a diverse arsenal spanning both categories. But once again, the claim is generic. For the Pandava side, we know exactly who carries what. Arjuna alone possesses the Pashupatastra, the Brahmastra, and the Gandiv bow. Duryodhana's various weapons is a vague counterweight to specific, documented superiority. Living the Shloka. What this means for us today. The phrase Madarthe Tyakta Jivita, those who have sacrificed their lives for my sake, is not confined to ancient battlefields. It is alive in every sphere of human life, where one person's ego consumes the energy, health, or well-being of others. Think of the entrepreneur who says, "My team is willing to work 80-hour weeks for this vision," and hears it as loyalty rather than recognizing it as exploitation. That is Madarthe Tyakta Jivita in modern clothing. Think of the family patriarch who measures love by how much others sacrifice for him. "My children gave up their dreams to care for me." Spoken with pride when it should be spoken with grief. Think of the leader in any domain, political, corporate, religious, who counts followers by their willingness to self-sacrifice and calls that willingness proof of the cause's worth. The Gita says, no. The willingness of others to die for you is not a measure of your cause's righteousness. It is a measure of their chains. And then look inward. Are you Duryodhana, or are you one of the Anye, the unnamed others? Are you the one for whom others sacrifice, or are you the one sacrificing for someone else's Madarthe? And if you are sacrificing, is the cause worthy of your life? Or have you, like Bhishma and Karna and Vikarna, given your loyalty to something that does not deserve it? A scholarly note. The closing of Duryodhana's speech to Drona. Shloka 9 marks the end of Duryodhana's assessment of both armies. From Shloka 3 to Shloka 9, 7 verses, he has painted a picture of the battlefield for Drona. Let us step back and see the complete architecture of this speech. Shloka 3. Manipulation, provoking Drona with the memory of Drupada's son. Shlokas 4 to 6. Fear, naming 17 Pandava Maharathas. Shloka 7. The pivot, but on our side. Shloka 8. Tragic loyalty, 7 great men bound to the wrong cause. Shloka 9. Delusion, many others ready to die for my sake. The arc moves from outward manipulation to inward delusion. Duryodhana begins by trying to control Drona and ends by trying to control his own fear. The speech that was meant to rally his teacher becomes a confession that rallies no one. And Drona's silence throughout, not a single recorded response, speaks louder than any words could. Tomorrow, the Gita will move to its next phase. Having assessed both armies, Duryodhana will shift from listing warriors to making a comparative judgment about the two forces. And what he says will be one of the most debated verses in the entire chapter. Today's reflection. Here is the thought to carry with you today. Do I measure the devotion of others by how much they are willing to sacrifice for me? And if so, have I confused their sacrifice with my worthiness? The willingness of others to give up their well-being for my cause is not proof that my cause is just. It may only be proof of their chains. And equally important, am I one of the unnamed others in someone else's story? Am I pouring my life force into another person's madarthe without asking whether that cause deserves my gift? The Gita will teach us, through Krishna's words, that there is a sacrifice worth making. It is called Nishkama Karma, selfless action offered not for any individual's sake, but for the sake of Dharma itself, for the welfare of all beings. That is the difference between a warrior who dies for Duryodhana and a warrior who acts for Krishna. The action may look the same from the outside. The intention transforms everything. What lies ahead? Tomorrow, in Sloka 10, Duryodhana makes a direct comparison between the two armies, and his choice of words will stun us. After all this bravado, after 7 verses of listing warriors on both sides, he will say something that scholars have debated for centuries. A statement that may reveal either supreme confidence or devastating self-doubt, depending on how you read one single ambiguous Sanskrit word. We will unpack that word and discover what it tells us about the moment just before battle begins. Thank you for walking this journey with me. 9 shlokas in, and we have not yet heard a single word from Krishna. We have not yet reached Arjuna's crisis. We are still inside the mind of the antagonist, watching the machinery of ego, fear, and delusion operate with terrible precision. And yet, even here, especially here, the Gita is teaching us. Because you cannot cure a disease you have not first diagnosed. And these 9 verses are the diagnosis. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss a shloka. And remember, the more we share this wisdom, the more it grows. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Eternal Raga, where wisdom meets peace.